Kevin Harvick is still furious about the fiery end to his race Sunday night. NASCAR Response, and Kyle Busch to RCR starting to look more and more likely. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. I hope you had a leisurely Labor Day weekend. Lots of NASCAR news to discuss today, but first, we have to thank today's sponsor. 1821 Man-Made offers top-shelf grooming goods for the aspiring gentleman because a well-groomed man feels self-assured with confidence in spades to take on the day ahead. Inspired by Prohibition-era bootleggers, the 1821 Barrel House empowers men to be the gentlemen that they deep down aspire to be through professional-grade grooming products and lifestyle wisdom. Be sure to check out their 3-in-1 beard, hair, and body wash, available in 4 different legendary scents. Also, their lightweight conditioning oil for beard, hair, and skin. And check out their Spirits Spritzer. Oh, that's good. All 0 people here in my studio audience will appreciate it. Head on over to 1821manmade.com, that link down in the description below. And be sure to use code 1821NASCAR at checkout for 20% off your entire purchase. Hope y'all try out some of these premium products for yourself. Thanks to 1821 Man-Made for sponsoring this episode. I'm glad we can have a little fun because this is a serious episode. We'll talk Kevin Harvick, Rodney Childers in just a moment. First though, Adam Stern, as I've called him, the NASCAR silly season sage, tweeted this morning, Richard Childress Racing is one of the favorites to land Kyle Busch, but RCR President Tori Galita said he had no comment on the situation Sunday at Darlington. 2311 Racing has also remained in the mix to sign Busch. I don't have much to say on this. As I discussed last week, I think Chevrolet is the front runner to land Kyle Busch. Adam Stern, his sources seem to be telling him the same thing. And as I discussed last week, I think Richard Childress Racing is arguably the most competitive team right now to have an offer submitted to Kyle Busch, excluding Joe Gibbs Racing. Let's assume whatever Joe Gibbs Racing is offering Busch just is not appealing. Let's subtract them from the equation. RCR, I think, is the best team left right now. That's no disrespect to Colleague. I think they're growing. I think they are ascending. They could one day surpass RCR. And I'd say the same about 2311. I think they're very, very close, but they're kind of the B-tier Toyota team. I think they'll be around for the long haul, but we've seen how those B-tier Toyota teams have struggled to find longevity in the past. RCR, while they have not been at their best the past 10 years, they've been around. They've won championships decades ago, many of them. And this year with Tyler Reddick, they have emerged as a legitimate championship caliber organization. And say what you will about the format, Daytona, both their cars made the playoffs this year. Of course, we don't know the exact terms of every deal Kyle Busch has been offered up to this point, but assuming they're all pretty equal, we of course don't exactly know how or if KBM factors into any of this, but in my opinion, RCR is a very competitive landing spot. Kyle Busch will just have to decide if he's comfortable potentially playing second fiddle over there to the owner's grandson, Austin Dillon. I'm not suggesting he's going to get worse equipment or worse personnel, but there's an awkward thing there. Kyle Busch would no doubt be the more talented driver capable of getting results quickly, but Austin Dillon is still family, and we know Richard Childress values that. So in meetings, conversations, will that bother Kyle Busch if he goes to RCR? I don't know. But the cars are decent this year, and a guy like Kyle Busch will only help make them faster. So just the update there. Not going to talk about it again anymore this video. Just wanted to share that latest information with y'all. Kevin Harvick is heated. That probably not the best choice of words there. I wasn't trying to make a joke there. This is actually a serious topic. Kevin Harvick is upset. I'll just stick with a more generic term. He's mad. Late in the playoff opener at Darlington this past Sunday night, Kevin Harvick's car just caught fire. He had to evacuate the vehicle, ended up not finishing the race, took a major points hit, and afterwards, when speaking to reporters in the infield, he had strong words to say. He said, quote, "We just keep letting cars burn up, letting people crash into stuff, get hurt, and we don't fix anything. Now we're just riding around and cars catch on fire. Just shitty parts. They don't care. It's cheaper not to fix it." Not happy Harvick at all. Then yesterday on Twitter, Harvick took a shot at NASCAR Race Control. He tweeted, "Is the caution out yet?" in response to this photo of him climbing out of the car when the lights on the track seemed to finally turn to yellow. Criticizing Race Control for taking a long time to throw the caution for a top 10 car literally on fire. Going back to what actually caused the car to catch on fire, Harvick's crew chief, Rodney Childers, tweeted and then deleted these tweets. Let's put holes in the nose that will pick up every piece of rubber off the track. Let's mandate 75% open grill area going to the rocker boxes. Let's have a fan blowing air through that hose to make sure the rubber reaches the headers. Then once the rubber stacks up and catches fire, then we will have the equivalent of a leaf blower blowing oxygen on the fire and see how fast it gets a lot bigger. Again, he has deleted those tweets. I'm not exactly sure when, I'm not exactly sure why, but ranting about perhaps the poor design of the next-gen car. Rodney Childers then posted this short video to Instagram where he lights rubber on fire, showing how flammable rubber is compared to when there's actually good ventilation, and you can see much less no fire gets formed there. So Rodney Childers not happy with how this played out. Kevin Harvick not happy with anything the past few days, going back to his comments during media day on Thursday. It's a mess, just an all-around mess. Now, I'll get to NASCAR's response in just a few moments, but I want to establish a few things first. Over the past couple of months, we've seen several cars, notably all Fords, just catch fire at random points during the race. We saw Chris Busch at Indianapolis, recently Chase Briscoe at Richmond, Kevin Harvick this past weekend, the latest and perhaps the largest example. David Reagan, part-time driver in the NASCAR Cup Series, tweeted a short and I think very cohesive answer as to why these issues have not yet been completely fixed. He tweeted, "Issues like this could be fixed really quick if the teams had control over their own cars. But with spec cars, there are lots of red tape and layers in getting problems solved." That is an extremely important detail to remember when we cover this topic. By and large, these parts that are failing, causing these fires, were not built or developed by the teams themselves. They were designed by NASCAR, produced by NASCAR-supported third-party vendors, and then distributed to the teams who then just, screwed them into place, more or less. The teams cannot modify these pieces in any way, shape, or form, or they risk getting slapped with a massive penalty, as we've seen several teams get hit with already this season. Notably, both Petty GMS cars got hit with 35-point penalties for messing with that rocker box opening area. So the teams aren't allowed to touch these parts. By and large, it's up to NASCAR at the top to edit their design, to come up with new parts and pieces, then go to those manufacturers that they picked to then produce enough pieces to distribute to the entire garage. That is why they've been unable to come up with a quick fix for every single one of these incidents. The teams cannot do the things themselves. They have to go through NASCAR, who have to go through their partners. There's a ton of layers and steps. It's all very bureaucratic in a way. It's not a simple process, and that's what Rodney Childers is frustrated with. That's, I think, what Kevin Harvick is frustrated with, calling out the crappy parts. And that's what David Reagan is pointing out. And I also want to link a thread that Bozy, I always say his last name wrong, I'm so sorry, but Bozy posted a fantastic Twitter thread that I think pretty clearly explains, to the average fan at least, what exactly happened that ignited the fire in Kevin Harvick's car, based on all available theories and his discussions with people in the garage. So I encourage you to go check it out. He notes that some of the problems we're seeing now with these fires stem from changes that were made to help cool off the drivers. Remember, early on in the next gen, there were concerns that drivers were overheating in the car. They added slits in the front and rear windshields to help with airflow. They also did some things to shorten the left front exhaust so it doesn't go completely underneath the driver's seat and cook him from underneath. During those edits, they may have created some of these new problems that have popped up in the last couple of months. I don't want to get too far off track. Again, check out that Bozy thread down in the description below. NASCAR responded to this issue publicly today. Scott Miller, VP of Competition, went on SiriusXM NASCAR radio and admitted that it is unacceptable to have cars catching on fire like this.
We're debriefing it all, and it's unacceptable for the cars to catch on fire, and we've been working on different solutions for different things along the way that seem to maybe are the trigger. Obviously, we still have work to do.
Scott Miller also noted that it has been primarily Fords that have had this issue and said, quote, "We're looking at clearances on particularly the Ford exhaust because they seem to be having more trouble with this than the others. We have to get to the bottom of it quick, obviously." So Miller's saying that they have been working on solutions, they continue to do so. To NASCAR's credit, as was noted by Steve Letarte on the USA Network broadcast this past weekend, after the Chris Buescher fire, they were able to develop and produce a new piece that would hopefully prevent a similar fire from ever happening. Unfortunately, that has not yet stopped these other variables, Miller says NASCAR's still working on solutions to those. He also addressed Kevin Harvick's criticisms, or at least some of them, head on. Scott Miller said, quote, "To say that NASCAR didn't care is about as far from the truth as you could get. That's really all I have to say about that. I'm not going to get into any kind of back and forth contest with Kevin over the airwaves. I think he actually does know we do care." I don't know. You may want to touch base with Harvick because he did not sound too forgiving on Sunday. And once again, that's really the main takeaway I have from listening to all these different quotes. I'm not an engineer. I'm not going to come up with a solution to fix all these problems right here, right now. But as we've discussed over the past week, I don't think NASCAR has prioritized many of these safety issues the way they should be. And that's despite public concerns voiced by drivers. That's despite several fiery instances just in the past couple months alone. I don't think drivers feel very heard, and I think in many ways drivers don't feel very secure in these race cars. And yes, it's racing. Racing is dangerous. But NASCAR's had a great safety record over the past 20 years, especially compared to other motorsports. A record I think they should largely be proud of. You'd hate to see that slip away with this new car. Be proactive for a change. Don't be quite so reactive. In some ways, the next-gen car may have been a necessary evil of sorts. Take some of the production, the creativity out of the team's hands, create a spec car, make the competition a little more even, perhaps rein in some of that crazy spending, improve the on-track racing, which I think at most tracks this year they've succeeded in doing, and two, make it more cost-effective in the long run to own a competitive NASCAR Cup Series team. We see a lot of new people investing, a lot of new teams popping up left and right. Time will tell, but in the short term, at least they seem to be succeeding on that front. It's not cheaper right now. It's not cheaper this year by any means, but it's over the long run. And right now, there seems to be a lot of buy-in from new team owners. So right now, they've succeeded in a couple of their key missions, or are succeeding, in the process of succeeding. I'm not going to call this thing a success after 1 year. No way I'm going that far. But the car has had issues between the flat tire issues earlier in the season, the harder impacts that drivers are feeling, now the fires that are popping up. It's delivered in some big ways, but it's also struggling in a few key areas. And when you take the power from the teams, they're not able to work on these cars themselves. It has to be approved by NASCAR and has to be approved for everyone. You're going to see issues like this. Kevin Harvick has every right to be furious. Think about the last few days for Happy Harv. Last Thursday, he was one of the most outspoken drivers at Media Day about the safety of these cars, how they've been failing to absorb hits to his and most drivers' liking. He's called out NASCAR for not making safety a high enough priority. Then, during the playoff opener on Sunday, his car just randomly catches fire. He pulls over and starts unbuckling to evacuate, and then the caution finally comes out, definitely too late. His safety both at risk, obviously, from the fires coming up at him, but also from NASCAR Race Control's lackadaisical decision making. And then, on top of all this, he DNF'd. He's now last of the 16 playoff drivers, minus 13, by no fault of his own. Wasn't anything the team did, it was a spec part produced by NASCAR, distributed to all the teams, that failed. A design flaw that the team really had no way of rectifying. Now Harvick is last in the playoffs. That's the risk you take with a spec car, parts and pieces that the teams have no say over, failing at crucial moments, and putting drivers' safety on the line. I'm going to leave it at that. I hate dwelling on these safety concerns so much, but it's the top story. NASCAR sent one of their top executives onto satellite radio to discuss it this morning. Kevin Harvick was still tweeting about it early this week. It's at the tip of everyone's tongue, so we have to keep discussing it, hoping that NASCAR, maybe with some help from the teams, are able to expedite a solution sooner rather than later. I don't expect major changes to be made this year. I understand that. In some ways, unfortunately, we're stuck with what we've got through the end of November. But the offseason is closing in, and NASCAR has a notoriously short offseason, so NASCAR and the teams have to be ready to try some things, make some edits the moment racing stops. This needs to be the top priority. I know NASCAR's still trying to iron out the schedule for next year. They have tons of things on their plate. Move this to the top. I'll keep saying it until it's established to be true. That's really all I have to say. I feel like this was a long and kind of rambly episode. Just a lot of information I wanted to share with y'all and react to. But thanks for watching. Share your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you make of Harvick's strong words? Rodney Childers, his little science demonstration on Instagram? Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future content. As always, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters as well for supporting the show, going the extra mile. I greatly appreciate y'all. We'll be back again this week, more to discuss. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next episode.